There is a particular kind of moment that can make you feel like you have betrayed your own growth. You wake up and realize you did the thing again. The drink, the scrolling, the message you promised you would not send, the secret binge, the porn, the shopping, the late-night chaos, the self-sabotage disguised as relief. It can look like failure from the outside, and it can feel like collapse from the inside. But I want to offer a different frame, one that does not excuse the damage, yet refuses to turn you into the villain of your own story. In many cases, what people call a relapse is a shortcut. A nervous system trying to solve a pain it does not know how to carry. A part of you moving faster than your language. A grief that did not get a proper ending, finding a door that opens quickly. If you have been harsh with yourself, you are not alone. Shame is a fast emotion. It rushes in and tries to explain the whole event in one sentence. I am weak. Yet human behavior rarely has one cause. It usually has a chain, a feeling, then a memory, then a trigger, then a body reaction, then a choice made under pressure. Here is the unsettling truth that can also become a mercy. When grief is not felt, it does not disappear. It tends to change shape. It becomes irritability, numbness, compulsive pleasure, sudden rage, a need to be rescued, a hunger for intensity, a craving for control. Grief can hide under the urge to feel something, anything, as long as it is not the original thing. Not every discomfort is manipulation. Sometimes it's difference, noise, timing, or lack of skill. Awareness is clarity, not paranoia. In the same way, not every setback means you are doomed, and not every urge means something is wrong with you. Many times, it is a signal that your inner world is asking for attention with the only tools it knows. So the question is not only, why did I do it? The deeper question is, what was I trying to soothe, escape, prove, punish, or retrieve in that moment? Because the answer to that question is where the real healing begins. And if you stay with me, you will learn how to read the shortcut for what it is. An attempt at relief, pointing toward an unfelt grief that can finally be met with care instead of avoidance. Let's start with what grief actually is. Most people think grief is a single emotion, like sadness. In reality, grief is a whole weather system. It can include sadness, longing, anger, guilt, tenderness, confusion, fear, and even relief. It moves through the body as much as it moves through thought. Sometimes it arrives as tears. Other times it arrives as tension in the jaw, heaviness in the chest, or a hollow feeling behind the ribs. And grief is not limited to death. You can grieve a relationship that changed, a version of yourself you outgrew, a childhood you did not get, a dream that collapsed, a betrayal you had to accept, a parent who could not be there emotionally, a business that failed, a move that uprooted you, a season of life that ended before you were ready. You can even grieve the loss of innocence, the loss of certainty, or the loss of how safe the world used to feel. When those losses are honored, grief softens. It becomes a kind of honesty. It is painful, but it is clean pain. When those losses are ignored, grief becomes something else. It becomes the kind of pain that looks for anesthesia, not because you are broken, but because your system is trying to keep functioning. This is why a relapse can happen in a week when everything looks fine. On paper, you're doing well. You are working, paying bills, showing up, posting, training, staying productive. You are being strong. Yet strength, when it becomes constant performance, can turn into a quiet refusal to feel. And what gets refused tends to return, not as a polite request, but as a body-level demand. Think about how the shortcut works. You feel a vague pressure, a low-grade dread, a loneliness you cannot name, or a sadness that does not have a clear story. Your mind searches for a reason. If it finds none, it searches for a solution. Your body already knows a solution that works quickly. Dopamine, distraction, intensity, numbing, repetition. The habit is not just a habit, it is a memory of relief. A shortcut does not mean it is harmless, it means it is efficient. It gets you from pain to relief without asking you to speak the pain out loud. It bypasses the hard work of grieving. It bypasses the slow work of meaning. And because it works fast, your brain can start to treat it like a survival tool, especially when stress is high. In cases where there is a pattern of abuse or coercive control, conditioning can shape what you crave and what you avoid. In cases where there is gaslighting, a person can lose trust in their own perceptions and seek numbing to quiet the confusion. These are examples, not labels. The point is that context matters. Your urges are not floating in a vacuum. They are connected to what you have lived through and what you have had to carry. Now let's talk about the part that feels personal. Why grief chooses your specific shortcut. People do not reach for a coping behavior at random. Many times the behavior matches the emotional problem it temporarily solves. If your grief contains loneliness, you might reach for connection that is instant. Texting someone who is not good for you, getting lost in parasocial intimacy, porn, dating apps, anything that makes you feel wanted for 5 minutes. If your grief contains helplessness, you might reach for control. Food rules, perfectionism, compulsive cleaning, obsessive planning, the illusion that you can manage uncertainty by micromanaging your life. If your grief contains exhaustion, you might reach for escape, substances, endless video loops, sleeping through the day, drifting into fantasy. If your grief contains anger that you are not allowed to express, you might reach for intensity, conflict, risky choices, spending sprees, self-sabotage that turns the inner pressure into outer drama. And if your grief contains shame, you might reach for punishment. This is the hardest one to admit. Some relapses are not a search for pleasure. They are a search for a familiar ache, a way to confirm the identity you learned early. I messed things up. That identity can feel strangely stable, even when it hurts, because it makes your life predictable. This is why the old language of willpower can be too small. Willpower matters, but it is not the whole story. When a nervous system is overwhelmed, it does not negotiate with your ideals. It looks for safety. It looks for regulation. It looks for relief. If it only knows one method, it uses that method, even if your conscious mind disagrees. So what do you do with this without turning it into a story that makes you passive? You do two things at once. You take responsibility for your actions, and you become curious about your pain. You stop using shame as your teacher, because shame teaches only one lesson: hide. Curiosity teaches a better lesson: understand. Here is a practical way to begin. You can treat the urge like a messenger rather than a command. When it shows up, you pause and ask, what is the feeling under this? Not the excuse, not the story, the feeling. Is it grief, fear, loneliness, anger, emptiness, or overload? Name it in plain language. The act of naming can reduce its power because it brings the experience into consciousness. Then ask a second question. What did I lose, or what am I afraid of losing, that this urge is trying to protect me from feeling? This is where unfelt grief often reveals itself. A relationship ended, and you told yourself you were fine. A friend stopped calling, and you pretended it did not matter. A parent disappointed you again, and you acted like you were above it. A dream died quietly, and you kept moving as if nothing changed. The third question is the one most people skip. What would it look like to feel this for 2 minutes without fixing it? 2 minutes can be enough. Not to solve the whole grief, but to teach your body that feeling is survivable. Many people relapse because they believe at a body level that feeling is unsafe. The goal is to update that belief through experience. If you have tried this and it sounds simple but feels impossible, you are not imagining it. The body can store grief in a way that makes emotion feel like danger. In cases where there is trauma, the nervous system can react to sadness or vulnerability as if it is a threat. Again, this is not a diagnosis, it is a possibility. If that is true for you, your work is not to force emotion, it is to create a container that makes emotion tolerable. A container can be surprisingly practical. It can mean choosing a time window, setting a timer, putting your phone in another room, and allowing yourself to feel without being pulled into the shortcut. It can mean holding something warm, placing a hand on your chest, or sitting with your back supported so your body senses safety. It can mean writing one page of raw truth, then stopping, then returning to your day. It can also mean choosing one person who can hold your honesty without rescuing you or judging you. A friend, a therapist, a support group, a mentor. Grief tends to dissolve when it is witnessed. When you speak it, it becomes part of your story instead of a ghost that haunts your behavior. Now, I want to get even more specific, because vague advice can feel like fog. If your relapse happened recently, your mind may be replaying it. You might be stuck in the loop of, "I ruined everything." This is where you need a clean sequence, not a moral speech. Start with stabilization. Eat something with protein, drink water, and sleep if you can. Move your body in a gentle way. Many relapses are followed by panic, and panic can make the next urge feel louder. Your nervous system needs room to come down. Once you are steadier, repair what is repairable. If you hurt someone, own it. If you lied, tell the truth in a way that is safe and responsible. If you spent money you should not have, make a plan to stabilize. Responsibility without self-hatred is a form of maturity. Then extract the data. Ask, what was the trigger chain, and what was the first small moment when you started drifting? Was it hunger, fatigue, conflict, loneliness, boredom, celebration, rejection, scrolling, alcohol around you, a certain place, a certain time of day? Your behavior has a pattern because your life has a pattern. Sometimes the pattern is not dramatic. It is made of small, ordinary losses that often do not get named. A plan that fell through. A message that did not get answered. A week where you felt invisible. A moment when you realized your relationship is changing. A morning where you looked in the mirror and noticed time. These are not tragedies, yet they can accumulate, especially in people who have trained themselves to keep going without pausing. This is why a relapse can arrive after a good day. The day was good on the surface, yet it asked you to be composed for hours, while something inside you was quietly aching. When you finally get privacy, your system tries to discharge what it has been holding. If it does not have a skill for discharge, it reaches for the shortcut. The shortcut becomes a pressure valve. There is also the grief of unmet potential, which is rarely talked about because it can sound ungrateful. You can be thankful for what you have and still mourn what you thought your life would be by now. You can love your family and still grieve the freedom you lost. You can be proud of your progress and still grieve the years you spent surviving. When that grief is pushed down, it can come out sideways, and the sideways version is usually a compulsion. A helpful practice is to build a grief map, not as a spreadsheet of pain, but as a way to bring clarity. You look at the last week and ask, what did I lose, even in a small way? Then you ask, what did that loss make me feel? Then you ask, what did I need in that moment? Sometimes the need was rest. Sometimes it was reassurance. Sometimes it was support. Sometimes it was a boundary. When you identify the need, you begin to see what the shortcut was trying to provide artificially. This is also where self-compassion can be misunderstood. Self-compassion does not mean letting yourself drift without accountability. It means speaking to your pain in a way that reduces panic and increases choice. Accountability that is paired with cruelty tends to create secrecy. Accountability that is paired with respect tends to create change. If you want an even simpler lens, think of it like this. Urges often spike when the body is depleted, when the heart is bruised, or when the mind is overstimulated. Depletion can be hunger, poor sleep, too much caffeine, too much work, too little sunlight, too little movement. A bruised heart can be rejection, conflict, feeling replaced, feeling behind, feeling like you do not belong. Overstimulation can be constant notifications, endless content, too many decisions, too much noise. When those three pile up at the same time, the shortcut can start to look like relief, even if it costs you later. If you address one piece early, like food, rest, or a 10-minute connection, the urge often becomes smaller and more negotiable. Fourth, locate the grief. This is where the shortcut points. What was the deeper loss that the trigger chain touched? Sometimes it is obvious, like an anniversary, a breakup, a reminder. Other times it is subtle, like seeing people succeed and feeling the grief of your own stalled dreams, or hearing someone laugh and realizing you miss your old self. Fifth, build one protection that is not based on fear. A protection based on fear says, I must control everything or I will collapse. A protection based on care says, I will make it easier for myself to choose the path I want. That can mean removing certain cues, changing your evening routine, adding connection, adding sleep, adding structure, adding meaning. Now we need to talk about a trap that keeps many people stuck. It is the belief that grief must be processed in one dramatic moment. That belief can make you avoid grief because it sounds like a flood. In reality, grief often moves in waves. It can be met in small doses, a little honesty, a little tenderness, a little mourning. Over time, those doses teach your body that you can feel without drowning. There is also a subtle grief that people underestimate, the grief of becoming someone new. When you quit a behavior, you do not only lose the behavior, you lose an identity, you lose rituals, you lose the fantasy that the shortcut will one day turn into a stable home. You lose a familiar way of coping. That loss deserves respect, even if the behavior harmed you. Many times, the relapse happens when you have not replaced the ritual. Your body misses the rhythm. You used to end the day with a substance, with a binge, with a screen, with a spiral. Then you stop. The evening becomes quiet. Quiet is where grief speaks. So your nervous system reaches for the old ritual not because you want to suffer, but because you want to return to what feels familiar. So replace the ritual with something that addresses the real need. If the need is decompression, build a decompression ritual. Shower, tea, music, a walk, stretching, a book, a call with someone safe, journaling, a slow meal. If the need is connection, build a connection ritual, a message to a friend, a weekly group, a consistent community, a hobby that puts you near people. If the need is emotional expression, build an expression ritual, voice notes to yourself, therapy, art, writing, prayer, breathwork, a long cry with a blanket and no distractions. If the need is feeling alive, build an aliveness ritual, training, dancing, building, creating, learning, something that gives intensity without self-destruction. And here is a crucial piece that many people do not hear in a comforting way. Grief wants meaning. If you only remove the shortcut, grief may search for another shortcut. If you give grief meaning, it starts to settle. Meaning does not mean a perfect explanation. It means a relationship with your pain that says, I see you, I will not abandon you. This is where the subtle Huxley-like truth comes in. The mind loves to interpret, but the soul wants to integrate. Interpretation is asking, why did this happen? Integration is asking, what is this asking me to become? When you integrate grief, you stop making it a private war. You make it part of your evolution. You might be thinking, I get it, but I still hate that I did it. That hatred is understandable, and it often protects a deeper fear, the fear that you cannot trust yourself. Trust does not return through punishment. Trust returns through consistency, through small promises kept, through honest repair, through learning from patterns, through building conditions that support your values. So let's talk about rebuilding trust after a relapse without using humiliation. Start by shrinking the time frame. Instead of asking yourself to be perfect for a year, ask yourself to be present for the next hour. The nervous system handles short horizons better. Then build a chain of small wins. Eat a real meal. Take a shower, clean your room, go for a walk. Make one responsible call. Each small act tells your body, I am back with you. Then, when you are calmer, make a grief appointment. That might sound odd, but it works. You choose a time, you sit, you write, and you let yourself answer one prompt. What I lost that I do not want to admit is. You finish the sentence until it becomes specific. Then you write, what I needed then that I did not receive was. This is where grief becomes intelligible. Sometimes grief is not only about loss, but about love. You grieve because you cared. You grieve because something mattered. That means grief is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you are alive to meaning. The problem begins when you treat that aliveness as a threat and you anesthetize it. Now I want to speak to the part of you that feels embarrassed, because embarrassment can quietly fuel the next relapse. You might think, people will judge me. I ruined my image. I am back at zero. That thought can push you into hiding, and hiding tends to increase pressure. The antidote is selective honesty. Not confession to anyone who is unsafe, but truth to at least one place where you are held. If you do not have that place yet, you can begin by being honest with yourself on paper. Write what happened without drama, like a report. Then write what you felt before it happened. Then write what you felt during it. Then write what you felt after it. That sequence turns the event into information instead of identity. Let's also address the romanticized idea of rock bottom. Some people think they must hit a dramatic low before they change. That belief can become permission to keep going. Real change often begins earlier, in a quiet moment when you decide to stop negotiating with the same pain. A relapse can become that moment if you use it correctly, not as proof that you are hopeless, but as evidence that your current coping plan has a gap. The gap is the grief. The shortcut revealed it. The path forward is to build a bridge instead of a trapdoor. What does a bridge look like? It looks like learning the early signs of your system getting overloaded. For some people, it is irritability. For others, it is numbness. For others, it is frantic energy. For others, it is a sudden fantasy of disappearing. These are not moral failures. They are signals. When you notice the signal, you intervene earlier. You eat, you rest, you talk, you move, you cry, you write, you ask for help, you change the environment. You do something that reduces pressure before the urge becomes a tidal wave. There is also a deeper intervention, grieving what you lost in the language your body understands. Words are helpful, but grief is also physical. You can work with your body without turning it into a complicated spiritual performance. Try this. Sit with your feet on the ground. Notice one place in your body that feels tight. Put a hand there. Breathe slowly, in a way that is comfortable. On each exhale, say silently, "This is grief." You do not have to know the whole story. You are training your body to tolerate the sensation without running. Or try movement grief. Put on one song. Let your body move in a way that matches the feeling, even if it looks strange. Anger wants stomping. Sadness wants folding. Longing wants reaching. When you let the body speak, the emotion often becomes less urgent. Or try grief through ritual. Light a candle and name what you lost. Write a letter to the version of you who carried it. Tear it up, keep it, burn it safely, place it in a drawer. Ritual gives the mind a sense of completion, and it gives the heart permission to release. Now, there is an important distinction that can save you years. Some grief is current, tied to a real loss happening now. Some grief is old, tied to early experiences where you did not have support. A relapse can be triggered by current stress, but fueled by old grief. That is why small triggers can create big urges. The trigger is the spark. The old grief is the stored fuel. If you recognize that pattern, be gentle with yourself. It does not mean you are childish. It means a part of you still holds an unmet need. When that need is met now, the urge often becomes less intense over time. In cases where there is ongoing harm, such as emotional abuse, addiction within a family system, or chronic instability, the nervous system can remain on edge. In those cases, focusing only on personal discipline can be frustrating. You may need environmental change, boundaries, support, or professional help. That is not weakness. That is strategy. Let's also talk about the way culture misunderstands grief. Many people were trained to be functional, not to be honest. They learned to be impressive, not to be felt. So grief becomes something you manage in private, if you manage it at all. Yet the body keeps a ledger. It records what you swallow. It records what you endure. It records what you pretend does not matter. Eventually it asks for payment, and the shortcut is a way to pay quickly. What if you stopped paying with your future? What if you paid with presence instead? Presence is not a mood. It is a practice. It means turning toward the feeling when it arrives, just enough that it does not have to hijack your life later. It means letting grief be a visitor instead of an exile. Exiled emotions tend to recruit behaviors to bring them back into the room. You might be wondering, How do I know if it is grief and not something else? You do not need perfect certainty. You need a working hypothesis. Grief often has a particular flavor. It includes longing. It includes the sense that something is missing. It includes images of what was or what could have been. It can come with a soft ache or a sharp collapse. It can also come as irritation when sadness feels too vulnerable. If you sit with the urge and it quickly turns into a memory, a face, a place, a time, a regret, a conversation you wish went differently, that is often grief trying to speak. If you sit with the urge and it turns into a story of being unworthy, that can be shame, which is frequently a companion of grief. If you sit with the urge and it turns into panic, that can be fear, and fear often appears when grief threatens to surface because grief implies change. This is why the next step is compassion with boundaries. Compassion says, I understand why this urge exists. Boundaries say, I will not obey it. You can hold both. You can say to yourself, of course you want relief, and we are going to find a relief that does not take more than it gives. To do that, you need a menu of relief, not one option. Make a list of 10 things that can regulate you. Not 10 things that look good on social media, 10 things that actually work. Cold water on your face, a 10-minute walk, a call, a shower, music, a meal, breathing, stretching, cleaning one small area, writing one paragraph, prayer, a weighted blanket, a podcast that calms you. Choose what fits your life. Then, when the urge comes, you choose one item for 5 minutes. 5 minutes is small enough to be doable. Often the urge changes shape after 5 minutes because your nervous system shifts. If you do this and still relapse sometimes, do not turn that into a spiritual verdict. Healing can be non-linear. Patterns can loosen gradually. The goal is not to be flawless. The goal is to become more honest, more resourced, and more connected to your own reality. Now I want to address something even more tender. Sometimes you relapse when you are close to something good. This confuses people. They think relapse only happens when life is bad. Yet growth can bring grief too. When you start moving forward, you feel the loss of what you tolerated. You feel the distance between who you were and who you are becoming. You feel the grief of time. That can create pressure. In those moments, the shortcut can be a way to return to the old self, the self you understand. It is like stepping back into familiar clothes, even if they no longer fit. If that happens, do not panic. It means your expansion is real enough to scare the parts of you that learned safety through sameness. Speak to those parts. Say, we are learning a new way to live. You do not have to sabotage us to be heard. Then give them a role. Give them a ritual. Give them a voice. This is also where support matters. If you are doing this alone, the burden can become heavy. In cases where there is severe dependence, deep depression, or thoughts of self-harm, professional help is essential. That is not a moral failure, and it is not a weakness. It is a recognition that some patterns require more than personal reflection. If you are already in therapy or a recovery space, a relapse can become a powerful turning point when you bring it into the light, not as a confession, but as data. This is what happened. This is what I felt. This is what I lost. This is what I need. That level of honesty can change your trajectory. Now let's return to the title because it contains a clue. Your unfelt grief found a shortcut. That means grief is intelligent, not in a poetic way only, but in a practical way. The psyche tries to complete unfinished experiences. If you did not get to mourn, your system tries to create a state where mourning is numbed. If you did not get to speak, your system tries to create noise. If you did not get to be held, your system tries to create chemical comfort. The shortcut is a crude attempt at completion. Your task is to offer a better completion, not through dramatic self-judgment, but through small acts of grieving. Here is one exercise that can change everything if you do it honestly. Write down the last time you felt a strong urge. Then answer 3 prompts. First, what happened right before the urge? Second, what did I feel in my body? Third, what loss does this feeling remind me of? Do not rush. Let the answer come. It might surprise you. Another exercise. Imagine your grief as a younger part of you. Not childish, just younger. What would it say if it could speak without being corrected? Many people discover that their grief says things like, "I miss them," "I am tired," "I feel unseen," "I feel behind," "I feel too much," "I do not know how to carry this alone." Those sentences do not need solutions first. They need acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is the opposite of the shortcut. The shortcut says, "Do not feel." Acknowledgement says, "I can feel and stay here." When you practice acknowledgement, the urge loses its urgency because it no longer has to shout. You might still be thinking, "But I did damage." Yes. And that is where repair and responsibility come back in. Responsibility is not self-hatred. It is the willingness to face consequences and choose differently next time. It is the adult part of you taking the wheel without bullying the frightened part in the back seat. So if you slipped, do not waste the pain. Use it. Let it teach you where your grief is still waiting. Let it show you which situations you handle well and which ones overwhelm you. Let it show you which relationships drain you and which ones stabilize you. Let it show you the times of day when you need more support. Let it show you what you have been avoiding. Then, create one small vow that is realistic. Not a vow to be perfect, a vow to be present. When I feel that pressure, I will tell someone. When I feel that loneliness, I will go outside. When I feel that shame, I will write for 10 minutes. When I feel that numbness, I will move my body. Choose one. Over time, those vows become identity. Not the old identity of, "I mess things up," but a quieter identity. I return to myself. Returning is the skill. Returning after you drift. Returning after you fall. Returning after you numb. Returning after you run. And here is a final thought that can hold you when the mind becomes cruel. A relapse can be a signal that your grief is asking for a relationship, not a sentence. It is asking you to stop treating pain like an enemy and start treating it like information. It is asking you to mourn what you lost, so you do not keep paying for it with behaviors that cost you more than the loss itself. If you can do that, the shortcut becomes less tempting, because the road becomes clearer. You do not have to outrun your grief. You can walk with it. And when you walk with it, you do not need to disappear to survive it. You get to stay, feel, learn, repair, and keep moving, with more honesty and more softness than the version of you that believed punishment was the only path to change.